Hi, I'm Mike, and I love fixing watches and making videos to share with you on my YouTube channel. I bought this watch at a local jewelry store that buys gold, silver, collectible currency, and vintage jewelry. It's a Lord Elgin, made in the USA from the 1930s or 40s. It sets and runs when wound, and I really dig the Art Deco style. If you're into watch repair like I am, then you probably know how exciting it is to get a new project, even if you know very little about it. That's the case for me and this watch. This short video is typical of what goes on behind the scenes as I do an initial inspection to learn more about the watch and to see if it's worth the time, pun absolutely intended, to do a full service and restoration. This is also the first time I'll be shopping for an ornamental shaped crystal for a vintage watch, so I'll explain what measurements you'll need to know to find a replacement. If you're new to watchmaking, I invite you to borrow from my inspection steps. And if you have your own intake procedure, then please share in the comments what you look for when you get a new vintage watch project. Once I know that the watch is setting and running, my first concern is its cosmetic condition. I'm looking at the surfaces of the case, the crown, and the bracelet, although I often replace these expansion bracelets with a leather strap. Much of the value of a vintage watch depends on the condition of the dial and hands. While this watch initially looks promising, it's hard to tell because the crystal has yellowed, is definitely scratched, and possibly cracked. I'll try polishing it during this initial inspection to see if it can be saved. Despite being critically objective about the condition, I'm really enthusiastic about the style and details of this watch. I love the italic, almost cartoon fonts of the applied numerals and how the register around the sub-seconds hand mirrors the overall shape of the watch face. As anxious as I am to pop it open and inspect the movement, I think it's important to remove as much of the surface dirt from the case as possible to prevent it from getting inside the watch. Gemex USA. We'll get it cleaned up. The plating on the back looks pretty good. 14 karat gold filled S and W. Before we open it, let's knock off some of this dirt. Look at all that history. 17.5 Lord Elgin. 17.5 millimeter lug width. Just taking notes as we go. I'm going to grab a spring bar, see if I could use that for leverage in prying off the back. Oh my goodness, it's so dirty. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up around the case, and yeah, I think the watch back is actually glued on with dirt, and I want to get to the back of the movement. So we will, we're just going to clean. Going to clean the front of the case, and eventually I hope to be able to get the back to separate. Give it a whirl. This is just cleaned up using pegwood. So it looks like the movement can lift out. I don't want to bend the dial. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little hair that's hitchhiking on the small seconds hand. Oh yeah, it's actually fairly long hair. See if we can lift this out. Why, yes we can. There you go. First look. Pretty nice looking movement. Got some Geneva striping going on there. Let's just do some quick observation here. What can we see? We see some nice snelling on the ratchet wheel. It's mirrored on the outside, and then it has this little snelling on the inside. And it appears that there's the same treatment on the crown wheel. Nice touch. We've got the Geneva stripes in a consistent direction across the balance cock, across this bridge, across this other bridge. Very nice. And I'm going to spin this around so I can read it from my direction. And let's see what data we can glean off of the first the movement, See what's visible? And I see what looks like a serial number, Elgin USA, 374553667. On the balance, it says 21 joules, and that's all I can see on the movement. Now, the other observation I'm making is there is no Inca block or shock setting on the balance on this watch. So that makes me think that it might be older than I originally gave it credit for being. Okay, so maybe we can get more information about this watch from the information in the watch back. It says cased and timed by Elgin National Watch Co. Then it says Schwab and Wouchpard 14 karat gold filled. So I will write all that down off camera. We have at least 4 service marks inside this back. And then there's a serial number in the back, 468372. And so now what I can do is go to the web and see if I can look up the age of this watch. We've done some cleaning, so there's the dial. And I haven't spent a lot of time. In fact, I did very little on the dial. I just removed some grease from the sides, and the same holds true of the movement. I just removed a little bit of the grease from where the winding stem went in. It's a little dirty. And then just from some of the corners of the back of the dial. But really, nothing to speak of here. I think it's looking good. And what I'll end up doing is when we take off the hands, I will polish the hands, and I'll try to get in here and polish some of those raised numerals, get a little bit more shine on them. And so I'm hopeful. For right now, all of the ink on the dial looks good. So let's put this aside. Here's the bracelet. It cleaned up well. And after cleaning, I can see that on the edges of these central bars, you could see that the gold plate has worn a little bit thin. But overall, it still looks gold. And I like these little cutouts. There's like 3 little half circles carved into the band in between each link. And that does a really nice job playing with the light. So it's looking pretty cool. Okay, we'll put that aside. Here's the case back. This cleaned up nicely. You could use a polish. It's got a couple of dents in there, but I don't know how I would get to them because it looks like, I'm guessing that this back shell covers up that flat back. And so I think I'll just see if I can polish those out best I can. And here's the front of the case. And I think it came out swimmingly. And if I look real critically, I can see that these corners, the rolled gold finish is just a little bit rubbed through. But not so much that it's going to stop me from enjoying the watch. I looked online for a replacement crystal. Nothing seemed to be an exact match. I'll keep looking. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can polywatch this acrylic crystal. If you're looking for a replacement, I'll show you my cheat sheet. So there's 3 dimensions that you need to know when you're looking for a crystal. There's the overall length. That's usually the first number that is listed when you look at a replacement crystal, or at least one of these ornamental crystals. So in this case, it's 23.9 millimeters, and that's flat edge to flat edge. There's 2 rounded edges. So there's the wider number. That's the measurement right at the middle, and that is 20.6 millimeters. And then the end width on this crystal is 17.5. That's corner to corner. And then there's 2 features of this crystal that you need to know. One is that it is pointed corners. So these are not rounded corners. Throw that back on there just so you can see. So pointed corners. And then the other detail is that the curve runs both ways. It's curved across the width of the lens, and it's also curved across the length. So as you are shopping and looking for crystals, at least with the Elgin crystals that I've been seeing, they depict the curve of the lens with a line that looks like this. So that's indicating that it's curved along the short edge, and then they go like this to show you that it's also curved this way. These are the dimensions that I'm going to use to get a replacement crystal for this watch. In the meantime, I'm going to try to polywatch the crystal, just see if I can clean it up some. And I'm just going to use a blob of Rodico to steady the crystal. I use Polywatch exclusively on all of my acrylic crystals. Just going to take a clean, non-colored cotton cloth. Just need a little blob. Come on, milk it, milk it. All right, we'll just get started with that. Polywatch doesn't need a lot of explaining. You just put it on the crystal and you rub. As I'm doing this, I can actually see the details or see the flaws of the crystal a little bit better. And I might have a crack right down there. And when the Polywatch disappears or it dries, then I find a clean part of the cloth and I buff. And then I repeat the process. I would have used some buffing sticks, some little sanding sticks first to knock down the bigger scratches, but I don't have enough thickness. This is so thin. This is almost wafer thin. How'd we do? I don't want to snap it pulling off the Rodico. This crystal's thin. I measured the thickness at 0.83 millimeters, between 0.83 and 0.87 millimeters. So less than 1 millimeter. Boy, I did a number on getting this stuck here. I'll pull off the rest of the Rodico, and then I think I will just do one quick polishing on the inside to see if I could remove some of the oxidation, which is discoloring the lens and making it look yellowed. This is kind of an exercise in futility because this crystal is just gone. It's just too damaged. But I figure until I do get a replacement, I can put it all back together just temporarily until I do a service. Isn't that any better? Maybe it's a little less scratched, but I definitely want to replace this. Some of these crystals, they are not exact fits, and they have to be filed slightly to get them to go in place. Well, this one went in. There we go. So for safekeeping, let's recase the watch. And that way we can double back when it's time to. Before we reassemble, I do want to reinstall the winding stem and the crown. I never retightened the screw holding in the winding crown. So let's see, it should just go in. There we go, and it does. Okay, we'll retighten the setting lever screw. We have our two positions. Yes, there we go. We have our setting position. And we have our winding position. Excellent. I guess we put it into the back first. And there is a cutout there for the crown. Movement drops in this way. It's just a friction fit, nice and easy. And I'm trying not to press on the dial. Just want to get the movement going in here. There we go. You know what? I can't resist. Just want to take a very light, very soft brush and see if any of those dots are movable or removable. I didn't see a lot of change. So let's put this back in. Goodbye, dial, until later. Boy, that snapped eerily easily into the case. Yeah, that's not secure. I guess that's what happens when you clean the dirt off of these watches. Yeah, that case doesn't want to stay together. That will be a different challenge for a different day. But for right now, I think the preliminary cleanup was good. Definitely looks much cleaner. I like getting rid of the biologics. I'll just keep it separate from this just because the case isn't closing right now. Probably just need to very gently widen the back of the case where it engages with the front of the case. There you go. 1938-ish Elgin. This is a grade 531, model 7, so my research says. And this is the Lord Elgin brand. I'll wrap up this video by saying I just placed an order for a replacement crystal, although I'm not completely confident in what I ordered. But it was my best shot, and I'll just have to see how close I came when it gets here. In the meantime, I have a few projects on the channel ahead of this watch, so please stay tuned. I'm Mike, thank you for watching, and I look forward to our next time together. Hey, don't run away just yet. If you haven't already, please support the channel by giving this video a like, join the conversation by leaving a comment, check out my related videos, and click that subscribe button. It really helps, and I appreciate having you as a viewer.